On this channel, I uploaded my first videos on January 5th, 2021, but the vlogging only started on April 1st, 2022. Since that day, I've seen 11 new species in the Netherlands. It took a little over 5 months before I saw my first new species, the semi-palmated sandpiper, a bird I discovered myself while camping and birdwatching on Vlieland for a few days. This was the 14th record for the Netherlands of this American shorebird. From a distance, it closely resembles grey-colored little stints. Fortunately, I managed to capture the webbing between its toes in both photos and video, allowing the bird to be identified with certainty. When I found the bird on Thursday evening, I was almost the only birder on the island. Only Karel Hoogtilling, who was still in a restaurant at the time, rushed to the spot where I kept the bird in view for him. Luckily, the bird stayed for a while, and the birders, including a few good friends who arrived that Friday for the first reception tours weekend of the year, were able to see the bird. On October 16th, I drove early in the morning to Texel. My wife was heavily pregnant at the time, so we agreed that I would go early and come back as soon as possible. The day before, an eastern yellow wagtail had been found. Initially, it seemed the bird was no longer there, but after some time it reappeared and I was able to film it. Unfortunately, swamp stonecrop, an invasive aquatic plant, had been detected in the area. To prevent its spread, the area was strictly off limits, so no DNA could be collected, which is needed for definitive identification. This bird had all the characteristics and the correct call expected of an eastern yellow wagtail. A month later, another one was found, this time near Pearson's. By then, my daughter was a few weeks old, so I went just to be sure. DNA was successfully collected from this one, but it turned out not to be a pure eastern yellow wagtail, something already suspected due to its occasionally incorrect call. Therefore, this species is still not on my list. On October 21st, it finally happened, 4 days before my wife's due date, but fortunately it was only a 10-minute drive from home. It was the second record of a yellow-browed bunting ever for the Netherlands, found by Eva Heres. The bird was reported relatively late in the day, but since I was nearby, I could still see it. However, the bird stayed for 4 days in total, and I went to see it every day. On the night of the 24th to the 25th, the bird disappeared, precisely when my daughter was born. So Olivia didn't come with the white stork, but with the yellow-browed bunting. It also turned out to be the last new species of the year. The next new species appeared on February 7th, 2023. It was my day off, and I was walking with my daughter in the stroller around the Drents A looking for a little owl. At this time, Cornelis Fokker was reading ringed water pipits in South Holland when he found a Siberian water pipit, a species never been seen in the Netherlands before. So, together with Olivia and Willem, I drove there. Olivia had gone swimming that morning and slept the whole trip, which was very convenient. When we arrived, the bird was almost immediately visible through someone's telescope. It took a few hours before I could film the bird. The following year, the bird was seen in the same area again, and I returned to get better footage, which you can see. Almost 6 months later, I made a good decision to drive immediately with Olivia to see a marble teal at the Acermakeeg, found by Joey Braat. Until then, there had only been one accepted record in the Netherlands from 2004. All birds since then had either been ringed, had suspicious feather damage, or displayed behavior unusual for a wild bird, according to a rarities committee. I had already seen 3 of these unaccepted marble teals, but I figured my time would come. That evening, a small group was watching the bird when it flew off. Wim van Smieten managed to take good photos that showed the bird was unringed and had undamaged feathers. The bird returned briefly that evening, but was untraceable after that until it was seen once more about a month later. Eventually, it was accepted as the second wild record for the Netherlands. 2 days later, it happened again. In the Vochtelovenveen, just a half-hour drive from my house, a blue-cheeked bee-eater was found in the early morning by Benno van den Hoek. My mother was supposed to watch Olivia that day, but she wasn't awake yet, and I didn't want to wait, so I took Olivia with me again. The bird had flown off shortly after being discovered and hadn't been seen again. Luckily, after a bit of searching, I found the bird myself. What a relief! A little later, I was standing with birding friend Willem, his girlfriend, and some other birders, all enjoying the bird. After a while, I took Olivia to my mother, hoping to return to the bird later, but it had flown off in the meantime and wasn't seen again, much to the disappointment of birders who had arrived too late. Fortunately for most of them, Another bird showed up this year, making it alright. After 2 new species in August, the real autumn migration was a bit disappointing. The biggest highlight was a yellow-browed bunting on Vlieland, but we'd already had one the previous year. It wasn't until November 26th that I could add a new species. Caio de Gruyter and Max van der Wielen found a crag mountain near Arnhem. In 2022, there was also a twitchable bird on Texel, but I missed it because I slept through the notification during a nap. Babies don't always sleep well at night. Luckily, I managed to see this year's bird. I had only a 5-hour window, but that was enough for a round trip from Groningen. As planned, I arrived, saw the bird, filmed it, and got home in time. In the winter of 2023-2024, a Gyrfalcon was present on Texel. The bird was seen in the afternoon of January 31st in the Slufter. After careful planning with my wife, who had just given birth to our son 2 days earlier, Willem, Olivia and I went to see the bird on the morning of February 1st. Both Willem and I had missed the overwintering bird of 2011-2012 because it was on the other side of the country. And with 2 sightings in 3 years at the time, we expected to see one sooner. As the years passed, we regretted it more and more. But luckily, this winter, we were able to see the bird. However, it was very far away and I had left my converter in the car, so the footage wasn't the best. Still, we got good views through the telescope. In March, I tried to film the bird again, but I was unfortunately a day too late. Nonetheless, the first new species of the year was ticked off. The bird has not yet been accepted, but I expect no issues. The spring of 2024 didn't seem to bring a new species until May 31st, when a report came in of a Canvasback in the new Driemanspolder. In recent years, a few escaped birds have been seen, so the excitement wasn't too high yet. That changed when the first twitchers relocated the bird in the evening and found it to be unringed and in good condition. Arrangements were made for Olivia to be looked after and my son Emilio could come along. The tension rose for a moment while en route because, after being seen early in the morning, the bird had flown off and was lost. Fortunately, it was relocated just before I arrived. While I was there, the bird showed itself well among a group of pochards. This is the first acceptable case for the Netherlands after the bird from 2003 was ultimately rejected because the origin of a wing clip remnant could not be traced. On July 30th, the next new species arrived, one of my biggest shame birds, meaning it's a species that many other birders have already seen. The colored Pratincole was easier to see just before I started twitching in 2009. Since then, only one twitchable bird appeared in 2015. Like the Gyrfalcon, it was on the other side of the country and I missed it. On July 30th, I was in the office in Arnhem when a report came through of a Pratincole species in the new Driemanspolder, the same place where the Canvasback had been. A little later, the message came that it was a black-winged Pratincole, a species with nearly 10 twitchable cases since 2009. I decided to go anyway. After seeing the bird, I went to the supermarket, planning to return later in the evening when the light would be better for filming. Meanwhile, the message came through that the bird had been misidentified. It turned out to be a colored Pratincole. After this was confirmed, the bird was no longer reachable for twitchers who had only just set out, so I got really lucky here. Incredibly but true, the next day there was another one. A red-wattled lapwing was found at the Oranjezon campsite on the island of Walcheren. This was the second record for the Netherlands and also the second case for Northwest Europe, after a bird seen in 2019 across Croatia, Germany, Belgium and the Netherlands. The red-wattled lapwing is mostly sedentary, so it wasn't expected to show up in Northwest Europe. However, because the bird was followed along a long route, which, when traced back, led to the nearest breeding grounds, and because it was of the western subspecies, which shows some migratory movement, the bird was accepted at the time. The bird this year also turned out to be of the correct subspecies, which meant that everyone immediately headed there to see it. However, a few missed the species, since July 31st is a time when many people are also on vacation abroad. After a great August with many exciting and rare birds but no new species, September kicked off with a bang. Hugo Wielman found the second twitchable pedipalp warbler ever in the Netherlands near Sijpe, so together with Willem I went there, full of excitement to see if the bird would still show itself after being discovered. Controlled playback of sounds confirmed that it was still there, and many birders, 30 years after the first twitchable case of Vlieland, were able to add the species to their list. If you liked the video, then please hit the like button and also subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.